Jake Morrison floated in darkness. His small escape pod spun slowly through empty space, far from any star or planet. The life support machine beeped weakly, counting down his final hours. 3 days ago, his research ship had exploded when the engines failed. He was the only one who made it to an escape pod. The pod's computer had tried to find help, but there was nothing. No human ships, no space stations, nothing but cold, empty space. Jake had given up hope. He closed his eyes and waited for the air to run out. Then something changed. A soft blue light filled the pod. Jake opened his eyes and saw a huge ship outside his small window. It was like nothing he had ever seen. The ship looked alive, like it was made of coral and flowing water instead of metal. Beautiful patterns of light moved across its surface. Inside the strange ship, Captain Valen stared at the small human pod on his viewing screen. Valen had blue skin that was almost see-through, and large eyes that seemed to glow with their own light. He was Kalari, a species that lived in the deep oceans of their homeworld. "What should we do?" asked NYTH his science officer. She was younger than Valen, with silver patterns on her arms that showed she was smart and curious. "We have never seen this kind of life before." Valen's crew gathered around him. They spoke to each other with lights that flashed under their skin and sounds like whale songs. The Kalari had rules about meeting new species. It could be dangerous. The alien might carry diseases or be hostile. But Jorel, the ship's healer, swam forward. His bio-light patterns were calm and gentle. "Look at the readings," he said. "The creature is dying. Its air is almost gone. We cannot let a thinking being die when we can save it." The crew discussed this for several minutes. Some were afraid. Others thought it was their duty to help. Finally, Valen made his decision. "We are explorers," he said, "but we are also beings who value life. Bring the alien aboard." The Kalari ship reached out with energy fields and pulled Jake's pod inside. Jake felt the pod moving, but he was too weak to understand what was happening. When the pod opened, warm, moist air rushed in. Jake took a deep breath and felt strength returning to his body. He looked up and saw the most amazing sight of his life. 3 alien beings stood around him, their skin glowing with soft blue light. They looked like they were made of water and starlight. Jake tried to sit up, but he was too weak. Jorel moved closer. The healer had learned some things about the alien's body from scanning the pod. He knew the creature needed oxygen and water, and that its body temperature was much warmer than Kalari's. Jorel had prepared a special room for the alien, with the right air and warmth. "Do not be afraid," Jorel said, though he knew the alien could not understand him yet. The healing chamber would teach both of them each other's languages while it fixed the alien's body. Jake felt gentle hands lift him. The aliens carried him through corridors that curved and flowed like ocean currents. Everything was blue and green and alive. Plants grew on the walls, and small fish swam through tubes of water that ran along the ceiling. They placed Jake in a warm pool of healing liquid. Machines that looked more like sea creatures than technology worked to repair his damaged body. Jake had been hurt by radiation from his ship's explosion, and his muscles were weak from floating in space. While Jake healed, the ship's computer learned his language from the pod's records. It took 2 days for the translator to work well enough for real conversation. When Jake woke up, he could understand what the aliens were saying. "How do you feel?" asked Jorel. His voice sounded like music played underwater. Jake sat up slowly. He felt better than he had in weeks. "I feel good," he said. "Thank you. You saved my life." Valen entered the healing chamber. He moved like he was swimming, even though there was no water around him. "I am Captain Valen of the ship Windwalker. We are Kalari. What are you called?" "I'm Jake Morrison." "I'm human. I'm from Earth, but that's very far away." Jake looked around at the beautiful living ship. "I've never seen anything like this place." NYTH came closer, her silver patterns bright with curiosity. "We have never seen a human before. Your species is not in any of our star maps. How did you come to be so far from your home?" Jake told them about his research mission. He explained how human ships explored space looking for new worlds and new kinds of life. He told them about Earth and human cities, and how humans lived on land instead of in water. The Kalari listened with wonder. They had met other species before, but none quite like humans. Most space-traveling species were either like them, peaceful and careful, or violent and dangerous. Humans seemed to be something new. "Your people explore far from home," said Valen. "That is brave but dangerous." "Sometimes," Jake agreed, "but that's how we learn new things. That's how we meet people like you." Over the next few days, Jake grew stronger. The Kalari food makers learned to create meals he could eat. The Kalari themselves were kind and curious. They asked many questions about humans and Earth. Jake learned that the Kalari had been traveling through space for hundreds of years. They explored new worlds and studied different kinds of life, but they never conquered or colonized. They believed all thinking beings should be free. "We take only knowledge," Valen explained, "and we give help when we can." Jake was amazed by their technology. Their ships were grown instead of built, created from living coral that could repair itself. They navigated by following the songs of creatures that lived in folded space. They had never needed weapons because they had never started wars. "What about when others attack you?" Jake asked. Valen's light patterns showed sadness. "We hide or run away. We are not warriors. We hope that being peaceful will keep us safe." Jake thought about human history, with all its wars and conflicts. But he also thought about human heroes who protected others and human explorers who risked their lives for knowledge. Maybe there was something humans and Kalari could learn from each other. As Jake recovered in the beautiful alien ship, he had no idea that their peaceful journey was about to become something much more dangerous. Far away, other ships were moving through space, ships built for war and conquest. Soon, Jake would learn that kindness and peaceful intentions were not always enough to survive in a dangerous galaxy. Jake spent weeks aboard the Windwalker as it continued its mission through space. Every day brought new wonders. The Kalari ship was like a living city, with gardens that grew food and machines that sang while they worked. Jake learned that everything on the ship was alive in some way, even the walls and floors. The Kalari treated Jake like an honored guest. They gave him his own room with a window that looked out at the stars. They made clothes for him from soft materials that felt like silk, but were actually grown from sea plants. Most importantly, they shared their knowledge freely. NYTH became Jake's closest friend among the crew. She was a science officer, responsible for studying new worlds and life forms. Her job was similar to what Jake did on human research ships, so they had much to talk about. "Tell me about human art," and YTH asked one day as they sat in the ship's observation deck. Outside the window, a beautiful nebula painted space in colors of pink and gold. Jake thought for a moment. Humans make art in many ways. We paint pictures and carve statues. We write stories and make music. We dance and build beautiful buildings. And YTH's skin patterns showed excitement. "We do similar things, but differently. Watch." She began to sing, but it was not like humans singing. Her voice made patterns in the water around them, and bioluminescent creatures in the walls responded to her song. Soon the entire room was filled with moving light and color that changed with her voice. It was the most beautiful thing Jake had ever seen. "We call this memory singing," and YTH explained. "Each song tells a story or preserves an important moment. This song tells about the day I first saw a star being born." Jake was amazed. "It's incredible. Can you teach me?" And YTH laughed, a sound like bubbles rising through water. "Your voice cannot control the biolights, but perhaps you can learn to appreciate the patterns." In return, Jake taught the Kalari about human games. He showed them chess, using pieces carved from ship materials by helpful maintenance creatures. Captain Valen became very interested in the game. "This represents war, but as a thinking exercise," Valen observed, moving a piece carefully. "Humans study conflict even when they are at peace. Chess teaches us to think ahead and consider many possibilities," Jake explained. "It helps train the mind for complex problems." The Kalari found this fascinating. Their own games were based on cooperation and harmony rather than conflict. They played games where everyone worked together to solve puzzles or create beautiful patterns. Jake also shared human literature with them. He told them stories of brave heroes and great adventures. The Kalari listened with wonder to tales of humans who sacrificed themselves to save others, who explored dangerous places, who fought against evil. "Your people seem very willing to face danger," said Jorl during one of these story sessions. "Is this because you are naturally aggressive?" Jake thought carefully before answering. "Some humans are aggressive. Yes, we have had many wars throughout our history. But the heroes in our stories are not heroes because they fight. They are heroes because they protect others and do what is right, even when it is dangerous." This concept intrigued the Kalari. They had always avoided danger when possible. The idea of deliberately facing risk to help others was both frightening and admirable to them. As the days passed, Jake learned more about Kalari society. They had no single ruler, but made decisions together as communities. They had eliminated poverty and disease on their home world centuries ago. They explored space not to find new places to live, but simply to learn and grow. "Do humans fight wars to take resources from each other?" asked NYTH one day. Jake felt embarrassed to admit it, but he told the truth. Sometimes, yes, humans have fought over land, water, minerals, even ideas. But we have also fought to protect innocent people and to stop those who hurt others. The Kalari found human history both troubling and fascinating. They could not understand why any species would choose violence, but they admired human courage and the human willingness to stand up for what was right. The Wind Walker visited several planets during Jake's stay. He helped the Kalari with their surveys, his different perspective proving useful. On one world, Jake's understanding of geology helped him find mineral formations the Kalari had missed. On another, his knowledge of atmospheric chemistry helped explain unusual weather patterns. "You think differently than we do," Valen told him. "This is valuable. Different viewpoints help us understand the universe better." Jake was beginning to understand that humans and Kalari could help each other in many ways. The Kalari had advanced technology and deep wisdom about living in harmony. Humans had experience with challenges and conflicts that the Kalari had never faced. But their peaceful journey was about to be interrupted. During their survey of a system near the edge of explored space, the Wind Walker sensors detected something disturbing. Long-range scans showed the remains of destroyed ships and dead planets. "This is unusual," said NYDH, studying the readings. "These worlds show signs of recent life, but now they're silent." Captain Valen ordered the ship to investigate more closely. What they found was horrifying. Planet after planet showed the same pattern. Cities destroyed from orbit, populations wiped out, resources stripped away. "Who could have done this?" asked Jorl. His healing nature revolted by the destruction. Jake studied the weapon patterns on the destroyed cities. The damage was systematic and thorough, designed to eliminate all life quickly and efficiently. "Whoever did this has powerful weapons and no respect for life," he said grimly. The Wind Walker's computers analyzed the destruction and found traces of unknown technology. The weapons were more advanced than anything Kalari had encountered, and the ships that used them were clearly built for war. As they investigated further, they detected faint signals from the edge of the system. Something was coming, and the sensor reading suggested it was very large and heavily armed. "Should we run?" asked one of the younger crew members, fear making his light patterns flicker rapidly. Captain Valen looked at Jake, then at his crew. The Kalari had always avoided confrontation, but Jake's stories of human heroes had made them think about their responsibilities to others. "If we run now, we learn nothing," Valen decided. "We will observe from a safe distance. The galaxy needs to know what happened here." Jake felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. In all his stories of human heroes, the heroes often died protecting others. He hoped the real universe would be kinder to the gentle beings who had saved his life. But as the unknown ships grew larger on their sensors, he began to doubt that hope. The Kalari had saved him because it was the right thing to do. Now they were all about to discover that doing the right thing could be very dangerous. The ships that appeared on the Wind Walker's sensors were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. They were massive, dark vessels shaped like giant insects, with weapon ports covering their hulls like angry eyes. Even from a distance, they radiated menace and power. "Those are warships," Jake said, his voice tight with worry. "Big ones. Whoever built them knows how to fight." Captain Valen studied the readings with growing alarm. The alien fleet consisted of dozens of ships, each one larger than the Windwalker. Their weapons were already powered up, ready for battle. Why would anyone need so many weapons? Asked NYTH. The concept of such destructive power was hard for a peaceful mind to understand. Before anyone could answer, the Windwalker's communication system activated. A harsh, grating voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language the ship's computer quickly translated. Unknown vessel, you have entered Vorthak territory. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. The crew looked at each other in confusion. They had never heard of the Vorthak, and their charts showed no claims on the system. Captain Valen activated the communication system. This is Captain Valen of the Kalari ship Windwalker. We are peaceful explorers. We mean no harm to anyone. The response came quickly, filled with contempt. There are no peaceful explorers in Vorthak space. You will surrender your ship and crew for processing, or you will die. Jake grabbed Valen's arm. Don't surrender, he said urgently. I've heard that tone before in human history. They're not planning to let any of you live either way. Valen's light patterns show confusion and fear. The Kalari had no experience with such naked aggression. They had always believed that peaceful intentions would protect them from harm. The Vorthak ships moved closer, their weapons targeting the Windwalker. Jake could see them clearly now through the observation ports. They were built like predators, all sharp edges and threatening angles. Every line of their design spoke of violence and conquest. 30 seconds to surrender, came the harsh voice. Captain Valen made a desperate decision. Take us out of here, maximum speed. The Windwalker turned and began to flee, its bioorganic engines pushing the ship faster than it had ever gone before. But the Vorthak ships were built for hunting, and they quickly began to catch up. They're gaining on us, reported navigation officer, his patterns dim with fear. The first Vorthak weapon struck the Windwalker's rear shields. The bioorganic barriers, designed to protect against radiation and space debris, offered little protection against focused plasma beams. The ship shuddered as energy tore through its living hull. Damage to the rear gardens, called out Jorel. The plants are dying. Jake watched in horror as the beautiful ship that had saved his life began to suffer. Sections of the hull that had glowed with life went dark. The gentle creatures that maintained the ship's systems cried out in pain before going silent. More weapons fire struck the ship. The Vorthak were not trying to disable the Windwalker. They were trying to destroy it completely. Jake realized these aliens took pleasure in killing, in ending life wherever they found it. Why are they doing this? Asked NYDH, her voice breaking as she watched her home dying around her. Because they can, Jake said bitterly. Some species see kindness as weakness. They destroy others because it makes them feel powerful. Captain Valen tried to call for help, but they were too far from Kalari space for anyone to hear. The Windwalker was alone, dying slowly under the Vorthak assault. The main biocore is failing, reported the engineering officer. We're losing life support. Jake looked around at the crew that had become his friends. These gentle, peaceful beings were about to die because they had been curious about destroyed worlds. They were about to die because they had tried to do the right thing. Is there anything we can fight back with? Jake asked desperately. Valen's patterns showed deep sadness. We have no weapons. We never believed we would need them. The Vorthak ships closed in for the final attack. Their weapons charged up for killing shots that would crack the Windwalker's core and end all life aboard. In that moment of despair, Jake remembered something from his damaged research ship before the Windwalker had rescued him. His ship's computers had been gathering data about this region of space. That data was still in his escape pod's memory banks. Captain, my pod has data about human space and our defenses. If the Vorthak get that information, they'll know how to attack my people. Valen understood immediately. The Vorthak were not just raiders. They were conquerors, expanding their territory by eliminating all other life. If they learned about humanity, they would eventually attack human worlds too. Jorel, prepare the emergency beacon, Valen ordered. Load all our cultural archives and Jake's data. Joral's healing hands worked frantically to prepare a small, heavily shielded pod that could survive the ship's destruction. But, Captain, the beacon is only designed to carry scientific data. Today it carries something more important, Valen said. It carries hope. The Vorthack weapon struck again, this time hitting the ship's core. The Wind Walker began to break apart. Its living structure died in agony. Emergency systems failed one by one as the ship's life functions shut down. Jake, get to the beacon pod, ordered Valen. I won't leave you, Jake protested, and YTH pushed him toward the beacon chamber. You must survive. You must tell others what happened here. The galaxy needs to know about the Vorthack threat. Jake looked into her large, kind eyes one last time. I'll remember you. All of you. I promise. The beacon pod launched just as the Wind Walker's core exploded. Jake watched through the pod's tiny window as the beautiful ship that had been his home died in fire and light. His friends, the gentle beings who had saved his life simply because it was the right thing to do, were gone. The Vorthack ships paused to scan the wreckage, making sure nothing had survived. They missed the small beacon pod as it drifted away, its bioorganic hull making it nearly invisible to their sensors. Inside the pod, Jake wept for the first time since childhood. The Kalari had shown him a universe where beings could be truly good, truly kind, truly peaceful. The Vorthack had shown him that such goodness was not always strong enough to survive. But as the pod's navigation system engaged and began the long journey toward human space, Jake's grief began to change into something else. The Kalari had died because they had no way to fight back. They had died because they believed peace was always possible. Jake would make sure their deaths were not meaningless. He would make sure the galaxy knew what the Vorthack really were. And if there was any justice in the universe, he would make sure the Vorthack paid for what they had done to his friends. The beacon pod flew on through the darkness, carrying the last record of a gentle species, and the growing anger of a human who had learned what it meant to lose everything. 8 months later, the automated systems of human deep space station Omega 3 detected an unknown object approaching from outside explored space. The object was small and moved in a strange pattern, like it was following currents that human sensors could not detect. Lieutenant Susan Hayes was on duty when the alert came through. She studied the readings with confusion. The object appeared to be some kind of escape pod, but its design was completely alien. It was organic-looking, more like a living creature than a machine. "Should we bring aboard?" asked Technician Carl Weber. Susan hesitated. First contact protocols were strict. Unknown alien technology could be dangerous. But the pod signal suggested there was a human life sign inside. "Scan it thoroughly first," she ordered. "I want to know everything about that pod before it comes anywhere near the station." The scans revealed amazing things. The pod was indeed alive in some way, with biological systems maintaining its occupant. More surprisingly, the life sign inside was definitely human. How is that possible? Carl wondered. No human ship has ever been this far from home. Susan made her decision. Bring it aboard, but keep it in quarantine. And alert command immediately. They need to know about this. When the pod opened, Jake Morrison stumbled out into the docking bay of the human station. He was thin and pale from months of travel, but alive. The first humans he saw in almost a year rushed forward to help him. "Easy there," said Susan, catching Jake as he nearly fell. "You're safe now. You're home." Jake looked around at the familiar human technology, at faces that looked like his own, at writing he could read without a translator. For a moment, he felt overwhelming relief. Then he remembered why he was there. "I have to talk to your commander," he said urgently. "There's something coming. Something terrible." Within hours, Jake was debriefing with Admiral Patricia Cole via secure communication link. Admiral Cole commanded the human 7th Fleet and was responsible for defending the outer colonies. She listened with growing alarm as Jake told his story. "Let me understand this," Admiral Cole said. "You're telling me there's an aggressive alien empire that destroys entire civilizations, and they're expanding in our direction?" "Yes, ma'am," Jake replied. "The Kalari had records of dozens of destroyed worlds. The Vorthack don't just conquer, they eliminate all life. They see other species as threats to be eliminated. The Admiral studied the data Jake had brought back. The Kalari beacon pod had contained detailed information about Vorthack ships, weapons, and tactics. It also contained something else, the complete cultural archives of the Kalari people. These beings saved your life, Admiral Cole observed, reviewing the records of Jake's rescue. They saved me because it was the right thing to do, Jake said, his voice heavy with grief. They had never met a human before, but they risked their lives to help a stranger, and the Vorthack killed them for it. Dr. Richard Barnes, the fleet's top scientist, studied the alien technology in Jake's pod with amazement. The bioorganic systems were more advanced than anything humans had developed, but they were also completely peaceful in nature. This navigation system is incredible, Dr. Barnes reported. It reads gravitational currents in space like a ship reads ocean currents. And these bioshields could revolutionize our defensive capabilities. Colonel Lisa Grant, the fleet strategic planner, was more concerned with the military implications. According to this data, the Vorthack have over 10,000 warships. Their weapons technology is significantly more advanced than ours. If they decide to attack human space, we're not ready for them. Jake spent weeks working with the military team, sharing everything he had learned about both species. The Kalari technology was studied and reverse-engineered where possible. The Vorthack battle tactics were analyzed and countered, but it was the cultural information that affected everyone the most. Jake showed them NYDH's memory songs, beautiful patterns of light and sound that told the story of a peaceful people who had never known war. He shared Valen's philosophical discussions about the responsibility of advanced species to protect younger ones. They were everything we could hope to become, Jake told the assembled officers. Peaceful, wise, advanced. They had eliminated war, poverty, and disease from their society. They explored space not to conquer, but to learn. And the Vorthack destroyed them without a second thought. The report Jake helped prepare sent shockwaves through human space. President Elizabeth Stone called an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. Every human world began preparing for the worst. But preparation took time, and the Vorthack were not waiting. Long-range sensors detected Vorthack scout ships probing the edges of human territory. They had found evidence of human activity and were mapping human defenses. They're doing to us what they did to the Kalari, Jake realized. They're learning our positions before they attack. Admiral Cole authorized the largest military buildup in human history. Every shipyard in human space began working around the clock, building new ships with hybrid human Kalari technology. The new vessels combined human weapons and armor with Kalari bionavigation and adaptive shielding. Jake worked with the engineers, helping them understand Kalari biotechnology. It was difficult work because the technology was based on living systems that humans had never encountered before. But gradually, they made breakthroughs. The first hybrid ship was a UHS Defender, a heavy cruiser that could navigate through space using bioorganic sensors and protect itself with living shields. When Jake saw it for the first time, he felt both pride and sadness. The Kalari would have loved to see their technology helping others, he said to Dr. Barnes. They are helping others, the doctor replied. Every ship we build with their technology carries their legacy forward. As the human fleet grew, Jake trained as a pilot on the new hybrid fighters. The biomechanical controls responded to his thoughts and emotions as much as his hands. It was like flying with a living partner, rather than just a machine. The new fighters were fast and agile, able to outmaneuver Vorthack interceptors, while carrying weapons powerful enough to damage their heavy ships. Jake named his fighter the Current Rider, after the young Kalari scientist who had become his friend. 2 years after Jake's return, human intelligence confirmed what everyone had feared. A massive Vorthack battle fleet was moving toward human space, destroying everything in its path. The invasion would begin soon. Admiral Cole assembled the largest fleet in human history. Over 2,000 ships gathered at the edge of human space, ready to face the Vorthack threat. The fleet included massive new dreadnoughts built with hybrid technology, fast attack ships that could strike and fade like ghosts, and support vessels carrying weapons designed specifically to counter Vorthack tactics. Jake stood on the bridge of the command ship, looking out at the assembled armada. Every ship carried copies of the Kalari cultural archives, ensuring that the gentle aliens' wisdom would survive even if humanity fell. They saved one human, Jake said quietly to Admiral Cole. Now humanity returns with an armada. The Admiral nodded grimly. Let's make sure their sacrifice means something. As the human fleet moved out to face the Vorthak invasion, Jake thought about his friends aboard the Windwalker, Valen, and YTH Jorel, and all the others had died because they chose to help a stranger. Now their kindness was about to change the fate of the galaxy. The human armada moved through space like a cloud of angry stars. 2,300 warships flew in perfect formation, their hybrid biomechanical systems working in harmony. At the center of the fleet, Admiral Patricia Cole commanded from the bridge of the massive dreadnought UHS Retribution. Jake sat in the cockpit of his fighter, the current rider, as it waited in the launch bay of the carrier UHS Defiance. Around him, dozens of other pilots prepared for the battle ahead. These fighters were marvels of human Kalari engineering, fast enough to outrun Vorthak interceptors, and armed with weapons that could punch through enemy shields. All units, this is Admiral Cole, came the voice over the communication system. Long-range sensors have detected the Vorthak battle fleet. They're attacking the Quillen system, just as our intelligence predicted. Jake's hands tightened on his controls. The Quillen system was where the Windwalker had tried to help refugees 2 years ago. It was where his Kalari friends had died trying to save innocent lives. The Vorthak fleet was exactly what Jake had expected, a massive force of dark, predatory ships designed for destruction. Over 8,000 vessels surrounded the Quillen worlds, systematically destroying cities from orbit. The population centers were already burning when the human fleet arrived. They're not even trying to capture anything, reported Commander Ryan Foster from destroyer UHS Lightning. They're just killing everything. Admiral Cole studied the tactical display with cold anger. The Vorthak were positioning their ships in the same formation they had used against dozens of other species. They expected another easy victory against primitives who could not fight back effectively. They were about to learn how wrong they were. All ships, engage the enemy, Admiral Cole commanded. Operation Tidewalker is now active. Make them pay for every life they've taken. The human fleet attacked with coordinated precision that no Vorthak commander had ever faced. The bioorganic navigation systems allowed instant communication between ships, while the living shields adapted to enemy weapons in real time. The first wave of human dreadnoughts opened fire with plasma cannons reverse-engineered from captured Vorthak technology. But these weapons have been improved with human engineering, making them more powerful and accurate than anything the Vorthak had seen before. Vorthak ships, designed to intimidate weaker species, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to be intimidated. Human vessels worked in coordinated groups, sharing targeting data instantly through bioorganic communication networks. Captain Michelle Turner commanded the battleship UHS Vengeance as it led a squadron of heavy cruisers against a Vorthak command group. The alien ships fired their plasma weapons, expecting to see human vessels destroyed in brilliant explosions. Instead, the bioorganic shields absorbed the energy and converted it into power for the human ship's own weapons. The Kalari had designed these shields to protect against stellar radiation, but human engineers had modified them to turn enemy fire into strength. Direct hit on their command ship, reported Turner's weapons officer. Their shields are down. The UHS Vengeance fired its main guns, sending railgun projectiles to the Vorthak ship's hull like paper. The alien vessel exploded in a chain reaction that took out 2 nearby ships. Across the battlefield, human ships were winning engagements that should have been impossible. The Vorthak had superior numbers and firepower, but they had never faced an enemy that combined advanced technology with tactical flexibility. Launch all fighters, Admiral Cole ordered. Jake felt his fighter launch from the carrier bay like a bullet from a gun. Around him, hundreds of other human fighters streaked toward the enemy fleet. The hybrid biomechanical systems made each fighter feel alive, responding to the pilot's intentions as much as their controls. The Vorthak interceptors moved to engage the human fighters, confident in their superior speed and firepower. But the human fighters were not like anything they had encountered before. Jake's current rider twisted through space in patterns that seemed impossible, following gravitational currents that only bioorganic sensors could detect. Vorthack weapons fired where he had been, not where he was going. "This is for NYTH," Jake whispered as he lined up his shot on a Vorthack interceptor. His fighter's weapons fired, and the enemy ship vanished in a ball of plasma. The battle became a rout. Vorthack ships, designed to destroy helpless targets, proved vulnerable to coordinated attacks by smaller, faster human vessels. Their tactics had not changed in centuries because they had never needed to adapt. Human captains like Commander Foster and Captain Turner led their crews in maneuvers no Vorthack had ever seen. They used the bioorganic communication systems to coordinate attacks across vast distances, striking the enemy from multiple directions simultaneously. "Their formation is breaking up," reported the tactical officer aboard the UHS Retribution. "They're trying to retreat." But Admiral Cole was not finished. The Vorthack had spent centuries destroying peaceful species, wiping out entire civilizations without mercy. Today, they would learn what it felt like to be hunted. "All units, pursue and destroy," she commanded. "Do not let them escape to threaten others." The human fleet chased the fleeing Vorthack ships across the system. The bioorganic navigation systems allowed human vessels to follow their enemies even through asteroid fields and radiation storms where conventional sensors would fail. Jake led his fighter squadron in an attack on the Vorthack flagship, a massive dreadnought that had likely destroyed hundreds of worlds. The ship's weapons were powerful enough to crack planets, but they could not track the darting human fighters. "All fighters, coordinate your attack," Jake called out. "Hit them from every angle at once." The human fighters struck like a swarm of angry wasps. Their weapons, designed to penetrate Vorthack shields, tore through the flagship's defenses. Secondary explosions rippled along the massive ship's hull as its weapon systems overloaded. "This is for Captain Valen," Jake said as he made his final attack run. "This is for all the Kalari." His fighters' weapons fired directly into the flagship's bridge. The massive Vorthack dreadnought shuddered and began to break apart, its command structure destroyed. As the flagship died, Jake broadcast on all frequencies in the Vorthack language. "This is for the crew of the Wind Walker. They saved one human, and humanity has returned with an Armada." The battle was over in 6 hours. Of the 8,000 Vorthack ships that had attacked the Quillen system, fewer than 500 escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured, their crews learning for the first time what it felt like to be defeated. But the victory was about more than just one battle. News of the human victory spread throughout the galaxy faster than the fleeing Vorthack ships. Species that had hidden from the Vorthack Empire for centuries began to rise up in rebellion. The Zephyrians, who had been enslaved for 50 years, seized Vorthack supply depots and freed their imprisoned populations. The crystalline mines, ancient beings who had retreated to the galactic core, emerged to share their advanced technology with anyone fighting the Vorthack. Most importantly, the few surviving Kalari, who had hidden in the deep ocean worlds at the edge of space, sent messages of gratitude to humanity. They had thought their species was extinct, but their cultural archives had survived in human memory banks. Jake stood in the memorial garden on New Geneva 6 months later, looking at the statue that honored the crew of the Wind Walker. The sculpture showed a human and a Kalari working together, their different species united in purpose. Admiral Cole joined him at the memorial. "The Vorthack Empire is collapsing," she reported. "Rebellions are breaking out on every world they control. It will take years to fully defeat them, but their expansion has stopped for the first time in centuries." Jake nodded, but his thoughts were with his friends who had died. They never got to see their dream of a peaceful galaxy. "But they made it possible," Admiral Cole replied. "Every ship in our fleet carries their memory. Every world we liberate learns their story. They may have died, but their influence will live forever." The inscription on the memorial read, "To the crew of the Wind Walker, who prove that one act of compassion can change the fate of the galaxy." As Jake walked away from the memorial, he thought about the ripples that spread from every action. The Kalari had saved him simply because it was right. That single act of kindness had led to the salvation of countless worlds. In the distance, human ships prepared to depart on new missions, carrying hybrid technology and Kalari wisdom to the far corners of the galaxy. They would meet new species, explore unknown worlds, and spread the message that the universe could be a place of cooperation rather than conquest. The Kalari had saved one human. That human had brought back an Armada. But more than that, they had brought back hope for a better future among the stars.